During these reflections over the past few days, we've been thinking of the words of Jesus from the cross. We started with, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. Then, woman, here is your son. And to John, the disciple whom Jesus loved in particular, here is your mother. Then Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And then, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And then, if you were there this morning outside the old jail, you will have noticed that I spoke on today, you will be with me in paradise. Now, this evening, we'll hear the final two sayings of Jesus from the cross, although it's the second of those on which I want to concentrate. So we read from John's Gospel, chapter 19, and verses 28 to 37. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so that scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, I am thirsty. A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, it is finished. With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Now it was the day of preparation, and the next day was to be a special Sabbath. Because the Jewish leaders did not want the bodies left on the crosses during the Sabbath, they asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken down. The soldiers therefore came and broke the legs of the first man who had been crucified with Jesus, and then those of the other. But when they came to Jesus and found that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced Jesus' side with a spear, bringing a sudden flow of blood and water. The man who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies so that you also may believe. These things happened so that the scripture would be fulfilled. Not one of his bones will be broken. And, as another scripture says, they will look on the one they have pierced. I didn't know what I was doing, really. I just got caught up in the excitement of the occasion. I heard them coming and I went out to see what the commotion was. A melee of people moving down the Mount of Olives, a buzz of constant shouting in the distance, not in anger, but in joy. Others joined me to see what the fuss was, and before we knew it, we were a crowd waiting for this other crowd. As they drew near, moving through the valley and up the slope towards Jerusalem, I saw him, a man riding on a donkey. Nothing unusual about that. What was unusual is what the crowd were doing. They were pulling down tree branches and spreading them before him. They were taking off their cloaks and throwing them in front of him and his donkey. We lined the roadside as if a king were passing by. Maybe one was, because the crowd that came with him kept shouting, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in highest heaven. As I said, I didn't know what I was doing, but before I knew it, I was shouting aloud too. Hosanna, Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the King. That's what you do, isn't it? You go along with a crowd. You join in. So I did. Even before we knew who it was, we were shouting. Before the crowd that went with him told us it was Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth, a man whose reputation for doing remarkable things goes before him, we were yelling out. And we wondered, some of us, whether he really could be the one promised by the prophets of old. Could he be Messiah? Then I more or less forgot about it until this morning. Again, I didn't really know what I was doing. We were gathered outside the palace of the governor Pilate. He was giving us the choice between two prisoners. One would be released and one would be executed. To my amazement, one of these two prisoners was Jesus, and he already looked in a bad way. And Pilate asked us which one he should release. The crowd roared back, "Free Barabbas, free Barabbas." And that went on for some time. When the noise died down, he asked, "What do I do with Jesus who is called the Messiah?" The crowd shouted louder than ever, "Crucify him, crucify him." I was aghast, even more so when I heard myself going along with the crowd, shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." And now they have. And now we have. And now I have. As I said, I didn't really know what I was doing. Now I find myself looking at the cross, the dead body of Jesus upon it, wondering, what have I done? The thing is, he gasped out a few words as he hung there dying. "Yes, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing." Did I know? I just went along with the crowd. I didn't mean for a man to die, not this man. Could God really forgive me? And as the end drew near and his agony increased, as he cried out, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," my God, why have you forsaken me?" It was agony watching, never mind the agony for him of being on the cross. And I wondered, how could God let him die like this? Finally, he spoke his last. "It is finished." And then he breathed his last. Now I stand here wondering, is it finished? Is it finished for Jesus? Is it finished for me? Or is it only just beginning? What did it mean when Jesus said it is finished? His physical suffering was finished? Sure. His life was over for now. But the Greek word set on Jesus' lips is tetelestai, and it has deeper layers of meaning than our three words, "it is finished." It could also mean it is accomplished or it is complete. What's he talking about? It seems that what Jesus came to do is complete. And there's another layer of meaning within that. In Jesus' day, if a person settled a debt, the person who had loaned the money might use that word tetelestai to mean paid in full. It's like writing paid today on an invoice. And I believe that through his death on the cross, Jesus has paid a debt in full. Not his own debt, for he had none, but the debt incurred by all of the wrongs we've done. It's not likely that our last words will be the most important in our lives, because how could we plan that? It is our response to Jesus' words to us that may be the most important words in our lives. His words saying, "Follow me." Will we say yes or no? The message of Easter is that when we say yes and live it out, we begin life again with Jesus. Not always an easy life, but a life that Jesus says will be life to the full. Tetelestai. It is finished. So for all of us, we can find out more about what that means on Sunday. And you're very welcome to join us if you're able to do that this Sunday at Wells Street United Church here in Buckingham. But for now, I want to play us out with another song. That song is a version of Man of Sorrows, What a Name.